The video game addict who became a billionaire at 26. Thailand. In the early 2000s, a man enters the bank. You can see the nervousness on his face, and he immediately approaches an attendant. "What do you need, sir?" The attendant said. "I want to apply for a loan of 10 million baht." The attendant was taken aback and blurted out a little laugh. "What do you need 10 million baht for?" he asked the man. The man proceeded to tell the attendant everything, his life story. But the short version is he needs the money to fulfill his dreams. The attendant was even more intrigued when he discovered the man was only 19 years old. Unfortunately, his age alone would not allow him to apply for a loan. Poor guy. What about his dreams? Don't worry, he'll be okay. Because that young man was Tob Itthipat, the youngest billionaire in Thailand. Itthipat Piradichapan, or Tob Itthipat, was born on November 24, 1984, to a wealthy family in Thailand. He studied at Xavier in high school and was an avid gamer when he was young. At 16, he got addicted to the game EverQuest, but he wasn't just an ordinary player. He was the best EverQuest player in the arena. Because of this, he found many rare items and treasures that would make a character in the game level up and become stronger. One day, while he was playing, another player offered to buy an item of his through a money transfer. The other player offered 500 Singaporean dollars for a single item. At first, he was suspicious if the offer was valid, so he gave the other player his uncle's bank account since he didn't have much money in the report in case of a scam. The offer proved legit and was indeed sent to his uncle's account. Not after that, Tob became famous, and many EverQuest players from different parts of the world, including the US, approached him to buy rare items. His occasional articles earned 400,000 baht monthly. This is when Tob first experiences what it's like to have his own money. In fact, he earned so much money from the game that he could buy his own car when he was still in high school. When Tob was 17, he went to the University of the Chamber of Commerce of Thailand. He already had a lot of money from EverQuest at a young age, and his future looked bright. But things changed immediately when he discovered something about his family. He found out that his father's construction business was under a lot of debt, almost 40 million baht. The pressure was on. He used his money to invest in different businesses. He first sold food and coffee in front of his school, but it did not prosper. He also tried to sell cheap DVD players, but it did not earn him good returns. Eventually, Tob dropped out of the university to focus on his business. One day, he came across a food fair and saw something that got his attention. It was a piece of equipment that cooked sugar-fried chestnuts. This gave him the idea to sell chestnuts, and he quickly bought the item for $7,200. But he thought of a unique strategy. Many people buy chestnuts, but you can only find them in Chinatown. He wanted to put up a stall inside malls and sell it there. At first, the business was not earning a lot. At that time, Tob thought about quitting and worked at the McDonald's next to his stall. But then, he felt that the location in the mall was not ideal. Lucky for him, another store was about to give up its spot after a month, and Tob immediately took it. It was near the entrance of the mall, and when he relocated, that was when his chestnut business blew up. It was really just about the location. Eventually, Tob expanded his business. He could put up 30 branches of his chestnut business, scattered in the most giant hypermarkets in Thailand like Tesco and Carrefour. At this point, he was earning 3 million baht a month. Business was good, but when a new CEO took over Tesco Lotus, the mall in which he had 25 of his 30 branches, he ran into a problem. The new CEO didn't like the chestnut smell spreading inside the mall, not to mention the steam from the stall that damaged the ceiling. The CEO kicked Tob out of the mall, forcing him to sell the chestnuts outside it. Because of this, his earnings went down by 50%, and it got to a point where he needed to find another venture to support his failing chestnut business. One day, his girlfriend brought Tob some fried seaweed. He wasn't familiar with it, but he loved how it tasted when he tasted it. He then asked his girlfriend if there were a lot of stores that sold fried seaweed, to which his girlfriend said no, noting that it's not really that popular. He immediately thought of selling it and bought a lot of raw seaweed. At first, he couldn't make it crispy and as tasty as the one he tasted. He ran through a lot of fried seaweed just to get it right, but to no avail. They were almost out of supply when one day, Tob saw a seaweed soaked in rainwater coming from a hole in the ceiling. He cooked it and was pleasantly surprised. It turned out crispy and tasty, like the one he had eaten before. This was when he discovered that the secret was to soak the seaweed in water before frying it. Tob quickly sold his fried seaweed and a few dried fruits to supplement his low profits from his chestnut business. After a few months, he noticed that his fried seaweed was selling so well that it surpassed his chestnut earnings. This was when he started his seaweed empire. He cooked his seaweed in the kitchen with the help of his 6 new employees. Though his business was booming and impressive, considering how young he was, more was needed to pay his family's $40 million debt. He needed to think of another way to grow the business even more. One day, while at 7-Eleven, he suddenly had an idea. He remembered a lesson he learned from one professor at his university, where some companies supply convenience stores scattered in different places of the world. He then thought that he could sell his fried seaweed at 7-Eleven. With a number of branches 7-Eleven worldwide, he would earn a large sum of money. With his product, he went to the 7-Eleven office. It was not an easy transaction. He had to wait for hours for his appointment, and when he finally got to present to the executives, they didn't like Tob's product. They didn't like its packaging and thought Tob's selling price needed to be lowered. He tried to get them to taste his seaweed, hoping they would change their minds, but the boss refused. Tob was devastated, but he wasn't ready to give up. He went to a designer and came up with a new way to package his product. They cut the large seaweed into small ones to fit in the new packaging, making its selling price cheaper. This was when the famous product Tao Kei Noi was born. A little trivia before we proceed with our story. The English translation of Tao Kei Noi is Little Business Owner, a reference to its young 19-year-old owner. Tob returned to 7-Eleven. This time, his packaging looked excellent, and the price was lower. Like his first appointment, Tob had to wait before his appointment, but this time, it was even longer. Eventually, Tob got sick of waiting and left his product with the employees at the 7-Eleven office. The employees then passed Tob's fried seaweed around, and it became their break time snack. When their boss saw it, he liked the packaging of the product. He was even more impressed when he tasted the fried seaweed. He loved the product and immediately called a meeting with Tob. In the meeting, the executives told him that his creation was now approved. Tob was so happy he had finally fulfilled his dream. His elation was cut short though. There was a final step for your product to be sold at 7-Eleven. The quality manager for 7-Eleven would have to check Tob's factory to ensure it was in order and clean enough for 7-Eleven to be in business with. Tob was taken aback. He didn't have a factory, was cooking in his kitchen, and only had 6 employees. He went to the bank hoping he would get a loan for 10 million baht, which he could use to build a factory. Tob immediately poured his heart out at the attendant, telling him his life story. The attendant was impressed, but it wasn't enough. Tob's story might be incredible, but you must be 21 years old to take out a loan. Tob felt terrible and a little hopeless, but he didn't give up. He never did. That drive got him to where he is now. Tob sold all his chestnut stalls for $200,000 and used the money to set up a small factory and hire a few more employees to speed up production. He has used all his resources for his dream, going all in. When 7-Eleven came to his factory, they were shocked at its small size. They checked every corner of Tob's factory. They saw many things that would fail to pass the good manufacturing practice standard. When they left, Tob got nervous. He was scared that his factory wouldn't pass and that his dream would never come true. After a few days, Tob finally received 7-Eleven's decision through fax. At the end of the letter, one word caught his eye: approved. He was so happy, and so was his #1 supporter, his uncle. They immediately delivered the product to 7-Eleven. The first order was 70,000 products to be sold at 3,000 branches all over Thailand. Eventually, Tob was able to call his parents and tell them that they could return to Thailand now. After only 2 years, Tob was able to pay his family's $40 million debt. In the following years, Tob Ittipat's business continued to grow and prosper. He added more factories and more employees, reaching 2,000 employees at one point. 2 years after his first transaction with 7-Eleven, he exported his fried seaweed to Singapore and Hong Kong. At the young age of 26, his fried seaweed was already in 19 countries: the US, the UK, China, and Australia, to name a few. He was also hailed as the youngest self-made billionaire in Thailand, with a net worth of 1 billion baht, or $33 million. At the age of 16, he earned 400,000 baht monthly. At the age of 17, he sold chestnuts and reached 3 million baht a month at 18 years old. When he was 19, he started his fried seaweed empire until he became the youngest billionaire in Thailand. Tob Ittipat's story is a testament that you get through all the obstacles in life and fulfill your dream if you work hard and never give up. Did you like his story? What are the lessons you learned from his life?